Hey friends, I hope you're enjoying this beautiful weather. Today I'm going to read chapter 5 of Shiloh. Yesterday we read chapter 4 and we learned that Shiloh came back to Marty's house and Marty actually built a little pen in his backyard for him to live in, and he's kind of keeping it a secret from mom and dad and his sister. So we'll see what happens today when we read chapter 5. So just keep that in mind. That's where we left off. So chapter 5, I'm going to go ahead and start reading it. I gotta take one problem at a time, I tell myself. Problem number 1, where to keep Shiloh hid. Solved. Problem number 2, would Shiloh be quiet? Yes, he would. Problem number 3, how am I going to get food out of the house enough to feed Shiloh twice a day without Ma noticing? The next morning before breakfast, as soon as Dad's gone, I take a biscuit from the kitchen and a rope from the shed outside and run up the far hill before Ma and Darlin and Becky get out of bed. This time, Shiloh's on his feet waiting for me, tail going like a windshield wiper, fast speed. A soft yip of pure joy cuts off quick when I say, shh. But as soon as I'm in the pen with him, Shiloh's leaping up almost shoulder high to lick my cheek, nuzzling my hands, my thighs. He gulps down the biscuit I give him. Wants more, I can tell, but he don't bark. Seems to know he's safe only as long as he's quiet. I tie the rope to his collar. Shiloh, boy, we're going for a run, I tell him. To get in and out of Shiloh's pen, I got to unfasten the piece of wire that holds the fencing against the trunk of the pine, then move the fencing aside long enough to slip out. Shiloh lets me go through first. He follows, and then we're both together, like a six-legged animal, pounding along up the path, legs bumping. Shiloh leaping up to lick my hand. I let go of the rope and let Shiloh run free for a while. If he goes ahead even a few steps, he stops and looks back to see if I'm coming. If he stops to sniff at a tree or bush and I go on by, his feet pound double time to catch up. Just out of the woods on the other side of the hill, there's a meadow, and I slump down in the grass to rest. Shiloh's all over me, licking my face, sloppy wet. I giggle and roll over on my stomach, covering my head and neck with my arms. Shiloh whines and nudges his nose under my shoulder, working to roll me over. I laugh and turn on my back, pulling Shiloh down onto my chest. And for a while we both lay there panting, enjoying the sunshine belonging to one another. What'd you do today, Marty? Dad asks as he gets out of his Jeep late that evening. Oh, looked for groundhogs up on the hill. Fooled around, I tell him. How's the can collecting coming? Found some a couple days ago. Saw some bottles in the ditch down near Doc Murphy's, Dad says. I'll go take a look, I tell him, and set out with my bag. I have to keep on collecting cans, enough to cover some money for meat and bones from the grocer down in Friendly. The bigger Shiloh grows, the more he'll eat. When I get back home, supper's on the table, and I slip into my chair just as Dad asks the blessing. Dear Lord, we thank you for the food you've provided for our table. Bless it to nourish the food within us. Amen. Ma picks up the meatloaf and passes it around, and the meal begins. I eat about half of my supper, and then I say, I've been getting this sort of full feeling at dinner, Ma, and then I'm hungry again before I go to bed. Ma don't even look up. Well, don't eat so much at dinner then, and eat again before bedtime. Food'll be all gone by then. There's always cornflakes or something. But I get hungry for meat and potatoes later. Save some back then. Darlin'll eat it. For goodness sake, Marty, Ma says. Who wants cold meatloaf, Darlin says. Forks continue clinking on the table. Becky keeps on digging her fork in her boiled potato. No one looks up. No one pauses. No one even questions. Easy as falling off a log. I get up from the table finally and put some of my meatloaf and half a potato on a saucer. I'm putting this in the fridge, Darlin, I say. Don't you go picking at it. I won't. I told you, she says. I go into the other room and sit down on the sofa. So far, so good. You seem restless, Marty, Ma calls. Me? Oh, no, lots to do. Where's David Howard this summer? Haven't seen him around. Think he went to Tennessee to visit his uncle. Fred? Michael? Haven't seen Fred. Michael's gone to some kind of camp. You're not lonely? How could I be lonely with the whole outdoors to play in, I answer. Wish they'd get off my back. You can ride along to work with me again anytime you want, says Dad. I pick up the comic book I bought a few weeks back. I want to go. I'll let you know, I tell him. Gradually, the kitchen clatter dies down. Dad belches and goes out on the back porch to look at the sky, same as he always does. Becky's fooling with her food, and Ma sends her away from the table. Darlin giggles at Becky and gets asked to clear the dishes. I wait until everyone is out of the kitchen and sitting around on the back porch to catch up the breeze. As usual, Becky and Darlin whoop and tumble around in the grass, glad for an audience, and after I sit a respectable amount of time, I say, I think I'll take my .22 rifle and go up the far hill a while. What you figure on shooting this time of evening, Dad says. Just working on my aim, I tell him. See how good I can hit when the light's dim. Don't you never aim your gun towards this house or our yard, Ma says. I'll point it dead away, I promise. I go back inside for my gun, slip the leftover food from the saucer into a little plastic sack, and set off up the hill, the sounds of my sister's shouts and giggles behind me. Again, as I get near the pen, I hear soft, happy yips, but as soon as I say, shh, the noise stops. The only sound you can hear is the swishing of Shiloh's tail hitting the fence, the soft pad of his paws as he leaps up in the air in sheer, pure happiness, the sloppy slap of his jowls together as he gobbles down the supper I've brought him, and then he commences to slobber love all over me as well. I unhook the wire, push the fence open, and lead Shiloh to the stream for a drink, filling the pie pan with fresh water. When I lead him back to the pen again, I can tell he's disappointed, wanted to go for a run, but I give him enough hugging and squeezing and petting to last the night, with the promise of another run through the meadow the next day. I'm halfway down the hill when I remember I haven't fired my gun once, and I wonder if Dad will say anything. By the time I reach the back porch, though, the whole family's facing down the driveway because there's the sound of a truck motor growing louder and louder. I stop in my tracks, fingers tightening around my gun. Dad, sitting on the edge of the porch, leans forward so he can see. Looks like Judd Travers' pickup, he says. My chest feels tight, like I'm having trouble breathing. The truck pulls up by the side of the house and the door swings open. Evening, Dad calls out to Judd, wearing his old Western-style boots with sharp heel. Gets out and comes over. Evening, he says. You had dinner, Ma asked. I got some leftovers I could heat up real quick. Had me some ribs already, he says. Ain't looking for a meal, Miss Preston. I'm looking for a dog. He sure don't waste any time getting to the point. Now my heart's really pounding. That new dog of yours run off again? Dad asks him. I swear to God I find him. This time I'm going to break his legs, Judd says and spits. Oh, come on, Judd. A dog with 4 broke legs ain't no dog to you at all. He's no dog to me at all the way he keeps running off. It's the 4th time he's left the pack when I had him out hunting. I got to teach him a lesson, whoop him good and starve him lean. Wondered if you'd seen him. I sure didn't see him on my route today, and you know if I had, I'd have put him in the Jeep and brought him to you straight away, says Dad. What about that boy of yours? Think he's seen him? Dad heard me coming back from the hill and he turns around. Marty? I stand rooted to the ground at the side of the house. What? Come on around here. Judd's dog's missing again and he wants to know, have you seen him? His dog? Here in the yard? Haven't seen any dog of any kind in our yard all day, I say, coming a few steps closer. Judd is sure studying me hard. So is Dad. Well, how about when you went out looking for bottles, Dad asks. You seen him then? Nope. My voice is stronger now. Saw that big German Shepherd of Baker's that gets loose sometimes, and saw a little old gray dog, but sure didn't see that beagle. Well, you keep an eye out sharp, Judd says, and if you see him, you throw a rope around him and drag him over. You hear? I only look at him, can't speak, can't even nod my head. I wouldn't never promise him that. You hear what he asked you, Marty, says Dad. I nod my head yes, I heard all right. Okay then, Judd says, and gets back in his pickup. Have any luck hunting yesterday? Dad calls after him. A rabbit. Saw a groundhog, but didn't get it. That new dog hadn't run off. He would have got it for me. He wasn't such a good hunting dog. I would have shot him by now. Sheriff would get on you if you do something like that, Judd. Law never told me before what I could do with my dogs. Won't be telling me now, Judd says. He laughs, waves his hand, starts the engine, and the pickup pulls away. So that's the end of chapter 5. I want you to think if you could think of any character traits that you could use to describe Judd. One that I'm thinking of, that you're probably thinking of, is that he's kind of mean, and then he's not very nice to his dogs either. So think if you could think of some more character traits to describe him.